So if any of you guys have to sign off early or anything like that, there will be a recording sent out, so you can catch up on whatever you missed. Cool. All right, let's get into it. Welcome. I've totally forgotten what I've called this thing. Nice Guy Recovery something webinar. And I'm stoked to have you guys join us. I know many more will be listening to the recording or watching it. And I'm always excited about talking about Nice Guy Syndrome because it totally ruled most of my life. And now it's like my mission to eradicate it, I guess. And so for those of you who don't know me particularly well, my name's Dan Munro, and I call myself a confidence coach because I couldn't think of anything better to call myself. And I've been working with the Brojo community and doing my own coaching for 5 or so years now. And my mission is really about Nice Guy Syndrome, people pleasing, and how that's under the greater umbrella of living dishonestly. We'll be talking a lot about that today. So my big thing is about honesty. It's about trying to live as honestly as possible, both in what you say and what you do with your life. The word that people commonly use is authenticity. That word's kind of getting destroyed by overuse in the self-development industry now, but for me, it's about integrity. It's about a way of living that lines up with what you truly think and believe, and so that people get to see who you really are, and so you get to see who you really are, instead of performing all the time. So today I'm going to try and focus on 3 simple, but not easy, but simple behavior changes that you can make to overcome Nice Guy Syndrome, which we'll talk about what that is soon, so that you can increase your self-confidence, essentially, and it'll also give you more genuine love life and social options and much reduced social anxiety over time as you learn to slowly but surely stop caring what everyone thinks about you. So the 3 points I'll be covering today. One is expressing yourself boldly. So we're going to look at how you express yourself, especially in social situations, to ensure that you express yourself as effectively as possible and without apology. We're going to be looking at shamelessness. We're going to be looking at how to use the power of honesty to create deep and meaningful connections so that you're not wasting your time with superficial small talk or bullshit performances. And then the third point we're going to be looking at is respect, particularly self-respect. One of the things that nice guys fall down on hugely is self-respect. So we're going to learn how to set boundaries in a way that improves your relationships and also has a double effect of improving how much you value yourself. So you act as if you value yourself and you end up valuing yourself, essentially. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. I'm going to try my very best to cut through the fat and get to the most succinct and concise points that I believe are beneficial to overcoming Nice Guy Syndrome and give you something that you can walk away with today and actually use in real life. A change in behavior that will be a little bit scary, but absolutely beneficial to your long-term quality of life. I'll say it right from the start. Don't try to take it all in. Pick up, if you get a key point that you're like, yeah, I'm not doing that. That could be good. I could do that. Just take that point and kind of forget the rest. You can come back, you can review the recording later, you can add it all in. But if you move away from this recording with one thing that you actually go and do differently, you'll get more from it than anyone who tries to take the whole thing in. I promise you that, okay? Anybody involved with self-development will know that every time you go to a workshop, you only retain about 10% of the thing. So keep that in mind. Now, we'll just do a little bit of technical stuff around using Zoom here. Just make sure my backup recording's going. Yep. So I know you guys will be using on a bunch of different devices. If you're using on smartphone or computer, you'll see that there's I think you have to either move your mouse over the screen or touch it with your finger. There'll be a little microphone icon down the bottom that probably has a red line through it right now because I've muted you, and the same like a very basic video camera looking icon. So you can turn your sound and video on and off. And this is me seeing you sound and video. So if you want to speak up, you can either unmute yourself and make a noise there, or I prefer you go to the chat box. So you'll see there's another icon that looks like a speech bubble with 3 dots in the middle. If you click on that, we get a Zoom chat group opening up, and I'll just say hi guys in that, so you can see that one there. If you guys have any questions or you want me to stop talking while we're doing this, you can just write question into the chat box, or you can even just type out the question and I can just answer it quickly, or I can bring you on the line and talk it through with you if we have enough time. So that group chat, and of course you can make comments throughout, ideas, examples, stories, that kind of thing. So the chat box is probably the best way to communicate. In that way, I'll just mute and unmute people as we keep going, rather than having everybody open and the noise going crazy here. Cool. So that's how to use that. I encourage you definitely to ask questions because otherwise I'll just keep ranting on. And I want this to be personal, especially to the people who made the effort to show up here today, which I really appreciate. And I would ask you to avoid multitasking through this. So if you've got Facebook open or emails open, give that a close. Part of actually dealing with sort of nice guy syndrome is learning how to focus and not trying to spread yourself all over the place. So maybe we can practice that. Cool. Let's set the scene by telling my own personal story, which some of you will have heard so many times you just want to kill me, but I think it's important for me to express a couple of things. One is that I do not consider myself to be better than any of you when it comes to nice guy syndrome. I believe it is a lifelong thing that needs to be dealt with and constantly provides challenges. And also to show you that the reason I focus on nice guy syndrome is because it was one of the biggest factors in my life in creating who I am. And it'll help you understand what I think of as nice guy syndrome. And I know we'll have a couple of girls joining us as well. And when I say nice guy, I don't necessarily mean male, though, of course, for me personally, that's where it is. But after many years working this, I've found that there is a nice girl syndrome for sure, with slightly different symptoms, but absolutely coming from the same insecurities and belief systems. So my personal story is pretty simple. From childhood, from my earliest memories, I tried to make other people happy. It was basically my mission in life. It was such a strong mission that I didn't actually consider any other way to live. And the other ways that I did see people living, I looked down on. So anybody who wasn't trying to make other people happy, I saw them as a less valuable person. Okay, I judged them. So if there's someone out there who was looking out for their own needs, I'd consider them to be selfish. If there's someone out there who upset other people, I'd consider them to be nasty. But me, who's constantly trying to make people happy, I considered myself to be a hero of sorts, like a much needed rescue something. And so it happened from such an early age that I don't even remember it beginning. So I don't know why I chose this path. And it can be, after studying nice guy syndrome for many years now, there are so many different ways that it can begin. You can just take something the wrong way when you're very young, like not being fed on time as a baby, all the way through to being bullied in school, in high school, or simply getting compliments and recognition for performing highly. These and many other things can set any of this off in motion. And it starts with a strategy where, hey, if I make people happy, or I avoid making people unhappy, which is a slightly different strategy, life goes well for me. And that's how it kind of began for me. Now, where I struggled most was with women and sexual relationships. I was fine with friendships. Some nice guys struggled to socialize at all. I didn't struggle to socialize. I was a very good performer. I could make people like me quite well, even though they didn't really see who I was. But with women I was attracted to, it was a massive blind spot for me. I just could not manage that. I felt like I felt like everybody else was advanced and I was a beginner. I just had no idea what was going on. Everything I did seemed to not work at all, and yet I just kept doing it. I was constantly focused on making people laugh and helping people. Those were my two primary strategies to survive socially. I was the funny guy and I was the nice, helpful guy. I had a range of other guys that I could be as well. In fact, I could be 1,000 different guys depending on who my audience was, which is one of the sort of symptoms of nice guy syndrome. But I was just constantly trying to either make people laugh or help them in a way that made life easier for them, which made them like me. I had no idea that I was needy for validation. I had no idea. I didn't call this approval seeking. I didn't call this trying to be liked. I called this being nice. Like I said, like a heroic act. What I was less aware of, or should I say less willing to admit, was the anger and resentment that was behind all of this, slowly building up over the years. As I got into my 20s, that anger really started to escalate. I started to get scared of my anger. You know, I had a lot of resentment to how I was being nice and nothing was coming back in return. I wasn't getting rewarded for all my heroic behavior, and I felt that this was really unfair. And particularly, I mean, it was happening in my career and things like that as well. Like I wasn't getting the promotion because I was too agreeable. There's things like that happening, but mostly it was in my romantic relationships. I felt like I was the nicest guy out there, or had all these girls telling me like, oh, I wish I could meet a guy like you, but then they'd go off with other guys. And I just started to build up this resentment. Like I felt like I was being targeted by the universe for unfair treatment. That the calculation wasn't working. I was like, be nice equals being liked. I'm being nice, but I'm not getting the being liked part. Why? Why not? And I started to get more and more resentful. And that's when I got into the whole pickup artist thing. And that was out of resentment. I had had enough of not getting anywhere with women especially, and just having anxiety socially all the time and so on. And because I'd gotten to this sort of peak of resentment, I was ready to start manipulating people actively. I no longer cared about sort of being nice in a sense. I was now like, I'm going to get mine. That lasted for a couple of years, but I ended up just feeling worse because now I was just even better at manipulating people, but they still didn't like me for who I was. And that awareness was building up more and more now. I mean, when I was just a nice guy, I knew that, I guess I knew deep down that people weren't really seeing me, but I hadn't quite made the connection that, hey, nobody gets to see me and therefore they can't like the real me. But when I was in pickup and I was actively, consciously pretending to be something I wasn't, and then people would like that, it actually made me feel worse because I'm like, they like my performance more than they like me. And so that was actually destroying my self-worth even more. Then I read No More Mr. Nice Guy. Okay, and that book was, I talk about it like getting kicked in the nuts over and over again. It was every page just nailed me. It was like somebody wrote a book about me. It was so painful to read. And it's like every excuse I ever had for being nice was just shattered. It proved to me beyond a shadow of a doubt that my niceness wasn't really nice at all. It was manipulative behavior designed to control people. That it came from a place of pain, not a place of giving. And that I was basically a social wimp. That's what the book showed me, was that all of this was based out of avoiding social discomfort. You know, I created a whole persona, in fact, a whole lifestyle around this persona, just because I was a little bit scared of confrontations and things like that. This tiny thing had ended up being this huge deception. So after I read that, I went through a phase where I stopped helping people for a while. I started expressing myself more honestly. I started initiating confrontations. 10 years later, here we are. I love who I am. My lifestyle suits me. I speak honestly, I'd say about 95% of the time, as opposed to about 15% of the time when I first got started. And I can connect easily with people without feeling afraid all the time, without that chronic anxiety that I used to have. And that's why I developed, into a coach that works with people on nice guy syndrome. I want to help other people make that journey, but without having to take 10 years of trial and error to do it. Yeah. So I still have nice guy syndrome affect me. It's kind of, I see it almost like a drug addiction. It's something I'm going to be in recovery from for the rest of my life. But as long as I can keep focus on channeling my energy into honest expressions and honest behavior, this thing isn't going to rule me like it did. And I can have those connections that I always wanted. And I can be bold and confront people and speak my mind and all those things that I was always secretly jealous of when I was a nice guy. I can do that stuff now, and I believe anybody watching this can do it as well once they take off the shackles of nice guy syndrome. So that's my backstory. If any of you guys want to share your backstory, feel free to type it into the group chat there. If you had different experiences or if any of my experiences resonate with you, type it in and share it there. We're going to get into it properly when I go through the 3 points now. And as we go on, like I said, you can always ask questions or share comments, and I can respond to you there. Part of this this webinar is to also promote the Brojo membership for those of you who aren't already members, but I won't be over the top with that. I'll just post some links and stuff if you guys are interested in going further with this as we go. And I'll try to give you my best stuff. I've noticed that a lot of marketing type webinars tend to talk about something and then hold back just on that thing you could actually use. So you have to sign up to get the next thing. I don't want to do that. I want to try and give you exactly what you need to move forward as much as I can in the short time we have together. And if you want to go further with it, then that's what the Brojo membership's all about. Cool. So let's get into it. Let's look at point number 1, expressing yourself boldly. So this is about developing your communication and body language skills to ensure that you express yourself as effectively as possible and without apology, without this kind of apologizing for who you are. Nice guys or nice girls have a tendency to be hesitant, reactive, and calculating with the way that they express themselves. They're careful. A lot of nice guys identify as introverts, even if they aren't actually technically introverts, as they behave introverted when they're socializing because they're so careful. They're constantly calculating what's the best thing to say right now, which is very different from a sort of bold, confident person who watches themselves speak, who doesn't know what they're going to say until it comes out of their mouth. That's what you will not get with a nice guy unless they're around one of the few safe people in their life. So I had a couple of best friends who I could just express myself without thinking. But everybody else was a carefully calculated reaction. I'd watch them, I'd assess their mood, I was hypersensitive to the way people feel. And I expressed myself in a way that both the words and the way I spoke, the tone and everything, the body language, was designed to be as agreeable and pleasant to experience as possible. So I'd often be quite apologetic. I would rush in my responses. I was always scared of an uncomfortable silence or awkwardness in any way, so I'd cover that gap as quickly as possible. I try my best to be interesting, to be not inconvenient, not boring, to be entertaining. Now, not all nice guys try to be entertaining. I think it's kind of a matter of actually being an extrovert. It turns out I was an extrovert after all that, though I used to measure as an introvert. And I think extroverted nice guys are more likely to be the performers. So they're more likely to put on a show to make everyone laugh and make everyone happy and kind of make a big noise. There's also what I call the wallflower nice guy, the more introverted one, who doesn't try to make people like them. It's more he tries to make people not dislike him. And you fly under the radar. Yeah, you're in the background. You're always there, but you're kind of camouflaged. You never do or say anything that rocks the boat. If you do speak, it's this total agreement. It's this kind of like this white noise that doesn't affect anybody negatively. You really don't try to do anything. And I think that these are exactly the same type of guy with just different strategic approaches. The extroverted nice guy is putting on a show to make everyone happy. The wallflower nice guy is avoiding making people unhappy so that they'll be happy. It's the same strategy essentially. But even the performing nice guy will have certain apologetic way of talking and a very safe way of expressing himself. There'll be beta body language. There'll be body language that says, hey, I'm not going to take up your space here. I'm not going to get in your way. I'm not going to harm you in any way. I'm not aggressive. The shoulders come in. So many nice guys have that typical like IT posture with the shoulders in and the chin in, and this kind of like protecting the vital organs here, and this kind of not taking up space, no man spreading or anything like that. This kind of, I'll let everybody else take up space. You'll find, I used to always get jealous if there was if we're in a car full of people, like there's, like you are as teenagers, you pile like 6 people into a car. I was always the one that was squashed into a corner, or some other dude was like this, And it used to always bother me. I'm like, how does he always get so much space? I can never figure it out, It used to drive me crazy. But I didn't realize that I had a tendency to take up as little space as possible, to be as convenient to others and as unimposing to others as possible. And I also found I had what I call the soft voice. And so many people do that. It's kind of like the voice you talk to a baby or a puppy with. It's just this voice where if you just turn off the bass and you leave just the treble, it's where you talk like this. It's a very slight change, but it's gentle, it's soft, it's, tell me about your problems, without that kind of bass in it that can be aggressive or that can be provoking. So often I talk to nice guys, I'm like, dude, where's the bass? They do have it. If they get comfortable, it comes out. And it doesn't matter, I'm not talking about guys or girls here. It's this softness in the voice that's unlikely to offend anyone. And for some people, it becomes their actual voice, this gentle voice. All of this apologetic, gentle approach is sending you an internal message. What I have to express is not good enough. One of the key things that you need to identify with nice guy syndrome is that most of your self-worth issues are not coming from any external source. Any feelings you have that you're not good enough, that you're not worthy of this, that, and the other, it's coming from the way you express yourself, not from the way people react to you. It will look like it comes from people reacting to you. You'll think, this person rejected me, therefore I'm a bad person. But if you rewind the tape, you'll see the reason that they rejected you is probably because of the way you expressed yourself. And that feeling of rejection actually happened during you expressing yourself, not during their reaction. If I start telling a joke that I know people aren't going to laugh at, halfway through the joke, I've already rejected myself. I'm like, oh my God, they're not laughing. This isn't funny. You're such a loser. They haven't said anything yet. The way I express myself actually generates that voice in my head. It's so funny, these days I just don't have that anymore. And I'll be telling a joke that isn't funny. I'm like, it looks like it's just going to be for me, this one. It's a totally different voice. Like, fuck them. Let's do it anyway. Let's see what happens. Whereas it used to be like, oh no, change the topic. Like, back up. They're not happy. So I really want to get that point across, if anything else today. Any sense you have of low self-worth, a lot of it comes from how you express yourself and how you talk to yourself, as opposed to what other people are saying to you and how they're reacting to you. Counter to that, we also get kind of defensive when we get emotional, us nice guys. So when we're unemotional, we express ourselves in a soft, gentle, don't rock the boat kind of way. And then when we are emotional, we tend to get stuffy and defensive and blocked, don't we? I remember whenever I had to stand up for myself, the rare times I had to do it, I'd get this big lump in my throat like I was going to cry. It was really hard for me to ever speak when I was either angry or upset or offended or anything like that. I felt really blocked expressing myself during those times. So I tend to get stuffy and blocked, and this is why people pleasers in general struggle with confrontations. When they do confront, they do it so poorly because of this blockness that they usually get a reaction where they get dominated And then they compound the belief that, hey, I shouldn't stand up for myself because it always gets such a bad reaction. So soft, gentle, apologetic, small space, stuffy, repressed, blocked. This way of expressing yourself, not only does it provoke people to give you their worst reaction, I mean, someone's less likely to respect you and respond with respect if you're presenting yourself as like a weak case, you know. But more importantly than that, you are telling yourself you're not good enough with this way of expressing. It's like trying to sell a product you don't believe in. You know, you're saying the product sucks. I have to deliver it, but it's not worth delivering. We'll talk more about honesty soon, but this is a form of dishonesty. You're not really giving what you have to say. You're just kind of tentatively watered down, filtering it out. And this sends an internal message, hey, what I've got to say is not good enough. So I want to talk about keeping this as simple as possible, the change that I made physically, which I think for a lot of you, especially if you're just getting started, this is the easiest change to make. Getting more honest and getting more respectful takes a lot more courage than this change, because what we're talking now is just a physical change. Physical change to the way you express yourself. I actually talked about this a lot on my last free webinar about social confidence. 3 things to remember: slow, loud, and proud. If you can remember those 3 things when you express yourself, it's going to have a huge impact on the way you feel about who you are over time. There's a great body language talk by Amy Cuddy. I'll just type her name into the chat box here. You can look her up on TED. If you look her up, you'll see a lot of the research kind of concisely described around why body language actually changes the way you feel about yourself. And slow, loud, and proud is as close to behaving as if you're confident as I'll ever recommend. It does a lot of things for you. I won't go into detail. For a start, talking and holding yourself in this way actually makes it more likely for you to generate serotonin, which is essentially the confidence neurochemical, make you feel better about yourself. But it gives a certainty to your message. It's you telling yourself, I'm going with this. Even if it ends up being the wrong thing to say or a mistake, you're going with it. You're supporting you with this type of behavior. You're speaking up for you. So slow, the reason I have slow, and what I mean by slow is taking your time to speak. A lot of nice guys rush when they talk and they try to jam as many words per second in as possible because they're scared they'll lose the attention of the other person, which actually makes the other person more likely to lose attention. Slow is where you act as if no one's going to interrupt you. You've got all the time in the world, and every word is this delicious meal that needs to be served to the person. It's this nice, slow process. All these rules can be broken later, by the way. You'll hear me break some of them. But speaking slowly, it kills that rushing sensation. The rushing sensation is kryptonite to confidence. If you start rushing, it's an absolute apology for yourself. It's trying to fit into everybody else's schedule. Confident people do not rush, ever. Even when they're late, they don't rush. Because their time is what matters to them. When you rush, when you're trying to speak quickly and jam in as many words as possible, what you're saying is, I'm not worthy of taking up this space with my words, so I better get it done quickly and let somebody else have a turn. That's the message you're sending to yourself just by speaking quickly. When you speak slow, you're saying, look, interrupt me if you want. I'm going to take my sweet time here because I deserve it. That's the message you'll receive internally. Slow means pausing. Rather than like, some guys talk like Busta Rhymes, they don't even have like a gap between paragraphs because they're so scared someone's going to jump in on that gap like a wedge and just throw them off. And they have that experience, but they have it when they speak fast. Because somebody speaking fast and just piling like point after point on you makes you want to interrupt. Like, if I don't stop this guy, no one will. Like, I'll stop him for his own good. Poor guy. Whereas if you speak slowly, people are like, oh, he's going somewhere with this. This is epic. You can leave massive pauses and people will keep listening. Did you see it just then? The pause created suspense. You're kind of like, what's he going to say next? It actually stops, makes you less likely to interrupt. Whereas if I'm just like talking as much as I possibly can because I'm really scared that you're going to stop listening, and then I've got this other point that I want to make, you're not even hearing it. It's just this wall of noise. You know, dude, I've got to get this guy to stop talking or I'm going to not enjoy this party, you know. So slow sends a very important internal message and it helps everybody else relax. It tells everybody, look, I got this. You don't need to help me. Loud. Volume is a space consumer. And so nice guys have a tendency to try and consume as little space as possibly, and this affects their voice. So they speak softly, gently, to try and take up as least amount of volume as possible. Quite often they're scared of people overhearing them. I saw Anthony put in notes, he's a chameleon nice guy, which is the same as me, which is depending on who you're talking to, you change. So you fit in and with your background. I would talk to them like them, to mirror, to fit in. Yeah, I used to do that as well. So I'd actually talk like the people I was talking to so they fit in as quickly as possible, just like Anthony. What I found is if I'm in a group of lots of different types of people, I'd be scared of having all their attention at once because I couldn't fit in with all of them at once. I was best one-to-one, where I could suit each person. So I'd often speak quietly in a way where only the person I'm speaking to can hear me. And I would project my voice only to where I thought their ears were, essentially. I'm not thinking this through consciously, but when I look back at the way I talked, I could see that I kept my volume as small as possible to avoid accidentally bringing in someone who I couldn't manipulate. So one of the things I found is actually your voice tapers off over distance. So if you're aiming to speak to a person, by the time it gets to them, it's very soft. It's actually dropped off well before their ears. If you want to be heard, you have to speak. It will feel like you're speaking too loud. I promise you that. You'll feel like almost like you're shouting, and it still probably won't be loud enough because it'll just be what you're used to. You need to speak like you're talking 2 feet behind them. Okay, like you're trying to talk to someone who's 2 feet behind them. That's about the right volume you need to actually express yourself loudly. Loud does not mean shouting. It just simply means allowing your voice to be heard. It means speaking from the diaphragm, which is right under your tits there. So you can actually practice this one by yourselves in a room where you can set up a recording app on your phone, put it at the other side of the room, and then speak. And speak loudly enough so that when you listen back to the recording, it sounds like you're holding it up to your mouth. Okay, that's a way to practice speaking loudly. It's also, you will find you're actually scared of doing this. There's some sort of psychological fear around speaking loudly. And one of the reasons for that is because nice guys do not want to be in a spotlight that they can't control. Speaking loudly can do that. It can bring in interest from outside parties. It means that, it's funny, I've noticed a bit of my nice guy syndrome come back when I'm learning to speak Czech. When I try to speak Czech and I'm not sure what I'm saying, my volume drifts down. That way I can kind of just draw it back in like I didn't say anything at all if I need to. This is kind of how nice guys speak. Whereas loud is saying, okay, I'm putting this out there. I'm going to let this be heard. I can't take it back now. It has the effect of you confirming what you're saying to yourself. It's, like I said, this is the simple and probably the biggest impact thing you can do. You think speaking slowly and loud isn't going to do that much. I promise you it will do a lot for your psychological confidence. It's not about pretending to be confident. I really got to emphasize this. This isn't fake it till you make it. This is taking what you're saying, which is true for you, and putting it out as far as you possibly can. Okay? Slow, loud, and proud. And proud is more about body language than it is about voice. Proud is about taking up space with your body. Now, this doesn't mean you have to be like this, like a baby sharing bed with their parents, What it means is you just pull your shoulders back, you lift your chin up, and you let this sort of square of space here be exposed. Amy Cuddy's TED Talk will tell you a lot more about this, but simply in an evolutionary biology sense, this square of space right here is your vulnerable area. You got your neck, you got your heart and lungs. If you want to hurt someone, you get them here. Okay, this area. A timid, scared person will protect this area. You can see it's a guy at a bar will hold his beer above his chest like this, like a shield. You notice that? It's a weird place. He could hold it anywhere, but guys will tend to hold it there. It's the same how guys will cross their arms. There's this feeling of protecting this space. You'll look down, which actually brings that area closed. There's this whole closing in. My shoulders used to be really rounded. They used to be really tucked in. And my back was more pronounced, almost like a hump, because I was busy protecting this area. It's a very safe feeling. It's like being cuddled from behind, being the little spoon, Feels nice. But it actually chemically sends a very strong message internally. I am defensive. I'm protecting myself. This opening up of this area is one of the simplest body language changes you can make and hold as often as possible. Not only will it make you feel good in the moment to do it, but it also sends a message to yourself saying, I have no predators. It is safe for me to open up this vulnerable area because nothing's going to bite me here. I'm good. Opening this up, not only will it help with that voice tone, because if you open up like this, you'll speak louder and project more, but it will take up a space that demands respect both from yourself and from others. So, chest out, shoulders back and down, take up that space. If you're sitting down, sprawl. I used to do this thing like I'm just imagining I'm warm butter. Whenever I sat down, just go to the four corners of the earth. It feels better. It's far more comfortable. And you're like, at first you'll feel like inconvenient, like you're taking up other people's space. That's something you're just going to have to get over because you spent too long letting other people take up your space. This isn't revenge exactly, but this is about giving recognition to your own worth. You are allowed to be here. You're allowed to make noise. Your body, your voice, it's worth being in the world. Stop trying to confine it to the smallest possible leftover space that other people have given to you. Let them be affected by you. It's what I'd call a symbolic change more than anything. You might think, how's this supposed to help me with all this not good enough voice in my head? Because this is getting to the basics, this basic chemistry. You open yourself up like this, your biochemistry changes. Your neurochemistry changes. Instead of cortisol, stress flooding through your system because you're constantly in this hunched, defensive, waiting to fight position with a soft, gentle voice to protect yourself. You open yourself up, serotonin starts to flow through. You start to believe that maybe you've got this. All those beliefs you have about yourself, they're just chemicals. And you can actually control them with the way you talk and with the way you hold yourself. Okay. So I wanted to give you guys that one first because it's the easiest one to do. You may not have the courage to be as honest as we're about to go into yet, but this will actually help you develop that courage. If you can take up space, then maybe you can be a bit more honest. Maybe you can respect yourself a little bit more in your interactions. In general, nice guys do not take up space. Even the extroverted ones are very careful that their jokes don't offend, that they let other people have a say, that they get the thing out as quickly as possible so that they're not taking up too much time. They're still apologetic, rushed, ashamed of themselves in the way they express. This is going the opposite of that. Cool. If you guys have any thoughts or questions at the end of that section, check them in the group chat there. Or if any of you have figured out how to do it, you can raise your hand actually in some sort of way. I'm not really sure how it's done. But yeah, feel free to chuck it in the chat box there and share your thoughts and feelings. And for those of you who actually know each other or in similar locations, you can practice this with each other because it can kind of be a bit weird and awkward when you first start doing it. And if you're around somebody else who's okay with it being weird and awkward, it makes it a lot easier. Yeah, I used to practice this with my mates as well. I'll do my little quick promo there. For those of you who are interested in joining the Brojo membership, we're doing with these webinars We do a $1 for your first month deal. So I'll just chuck the link in there. So you can try it out for a month to see if it's right for you without having to worry too much about your cash. All right, let's move on to point number 2, yeah? Point number 2 is shamelessness. Simply put, nice guys are ashamed of themselves. They are nice. Yuan, put your hand up. Sweet. That did work. Hold on, Yuan. Let me just unmute you here. All right, Yuan, you're on the line. Can you hear me?
Right. Cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm on the phone, so I'm not that good at typing, so I just raised my hand and then speak.
Perfect.
Let me practice. All right. Okay. Take up space. Yeah, I mean, I haven't been feeling really well. I mean, last night I have been feeling terrible, actually. I went on a date, and then, the date went very well, except that towards the end, that the girl, she told me that she thinks of me as a friend because all the time I didn't actually make any advance on her. And then, I mean, the short story is that I feel really bad about it. I feel terrible about it. And the reason why I feel terrible about it is because throughout all my life, that's pretty much again and again and again, that's kind of what so my interaction with women is that they all like me a lot, like me being intelligent, being caring, but I'm such a nice friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's her fault, but it really sort of strikes down to my insecurity. And then so I feel I can relate a lot. So that when you say how you feel that you are nice, I really feel kind of, I sort of feel like fuck the world, fuck women, and I just want to cry. And that's how I feel basically. That's just like how I feel like you, what do you call that? Like you just want to give up. So yeah, I just want to say that like I think I understand that kind of experience, and I also feels that the kind of, it feels like there's no point to be real because you try to be real, you try to be genuine, and then you just people just see you as a friend. I mean, obviously there are things like, I can be more bold and then so on, but I think at that point in time, what I don't like is I feel I have to be somebody I'm not in order to get them to like me, and then that sort of really gets on my nerves. Yeah. So sorry, I'm just sharing. No question asked, just sharing. That's all. Carry on.
No, I'm really glad you brought that up. Super glad you brought that up because this raises a key point. A lot of you will feel that becoming more bold and more honest and more confrontational is somehow not you. And the reason you'll feel this is because it hasn't been you for many, many, many years. You think that being nice is you, because this is the worst thing about nice guy syndrome, is the performance becomes the person. You spend so much time being nice that you actually start to think that being nice is who you are, and that you'll have to be something else, something other than who you are, in order to connect, especially with romantic relationships. I want to emphasize now on the other side of that journey, confrontational guy that I am now, he's much more who I am than the nice guy ever was. The nice guy was a small slice of who I could be, a tiny fraction that I spent all of my time in. So I simply wasn't aware of this great dark chunk of the pie that had all my other stuff in it. My assertiveness, my boldness, my courage. I hadn't practiced that for so long that I thought the nice guy really was me. Okay? And so I feel you, Yuan, because you'll feel like, hey, do I have to be something I'm not? This builds the resentment even more. Like, being nice isn't good enough, but that's all I am. No, it's not. In fact, the darkest truth, which we're about to go into, about nice guy syndrome, is that not only is being nice just a small part of who you are, a lot of time it's not a real part of who you are. A lot of the time you're being nice when you actually feel like being something else. That's how you know it's fake. All those times you wish you could have yelled at that person, all the time you wish you could have told that girl that you found her sexually attractive, all the times you wish you could have just told someone, nah, I can't be fucked coming to the party, but you didn't. You were nice instead. That's not you. The real you was in there going, oh, come on, don't do this again. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. It's one of the most painful, dark truths about this nice guy syndrome, is that you think that being you is not you anymore. You think that bringing out who you really are will feel fake to you. But it's because you spent so long being fake that the real you feels like an alien. I'm really going to emphasize this. Like, you expressing yourself boldly is just a way of expressing yourself. It's neither you nor not you. It's just how it comes out. What we're going to be talking about in the second section is actually what comes out. What is it that you're expressing to the world? Because the biggest, most painful truth about nice guy syndrome is that it is a deceptive manipulation. It is not really about being nice. It's about being in control. And one of the biggest journeys for a nice guy is learning how to let go of control. How do we let go of control? With honesty. You can't control with honesty. You can control with manipulation. You can put out the certain parts of honesty that work and fill in the gaps with dishonesty or deception. But pure honesty, you speaking raw from the truth from your heart, however you want to say it, you can't control people with that. There's no room for manipulation. They are allowed to hate you when you do that, and you can't stop them. But that is the escape route from nice guy syndrome. You'll think that being nice is who you truly are, and yet so often you're doing it when you feel like doing something else. If being you is being nice, then you would never feel that way. Right? You'd never go, I wish I could just say this, or I wish I'd said that. Well, why don't I say this more often? You wouldn't feel that way if being nice was truly you. That's your value speaking to you after the fear is worn off. In the moment, you'll be like, oh, I'm so nice right now. I'm such a great guy. That's because you're actually drowning in fear, social anxiety that masks itself as a desire to be nice. Later on, when you're lying in bed alone after the date where the girl told you yet again that she just wants to be friends, you're going to have your doubts about being nice. That other voice is going to come and saying, you could have done this, should have been more like that. Now, sometimes that voice is full of shit, but a lot of times the voice is simply telling you you're not being you. And because you've spent so much time not being you, you don't even know what you is. You don't even know what the change would be. And that's what I want to talk about in this section, figuring out what that change will be. Underneath all the shame that nice guys have is the most powerful aspect of the shame, which is sexual shame. Nice guys' shame is based mostly in sexuality. And I don't necessarily mean just sex, like intercourse, but I mean masculinity. Nice guys range from passive to feminine 90% of the time. And they think of themselves as a passively feminine guy. They think that is me, because they never tap into that dark well of masculinity. They're scared of it. They're scared of what it will do. They're scared of how disagreeable it is, how much less approval they'll have if they start tapping into it. But you are not a full man if you're only spending your time in the feminine space. Nobody is only feminine. Nobody. No woman, nothing. Everybody has the full range. Everybody has the range from compassion through to aggression. We've all got that. But nice guys only spend their time in half the range, and they spend their time there so long that they think that's the full range. And you're missing out on the other. Oh God, the other side is so good. Being nice and caring and compassionate and supportive, that's great. Being assertive, bold, honest, oh, so thrilling. And you're missing out. But it's fucking scary to do. It's easy to be nice. It's never scary to be nice, is it? It's never like heart racing, palm sweating to treat someone nicely and compassionately. There's no thrill there. And because there's no thrill there, there's nothing sexually attractive about you there. How am I supposed to be attracted to something that's not thrilling at all emotionally? I can like something that's not thrilling, you know? But I can't have polarizing attraction. I can't have sexual tension with something that doesn't give me any tension. Nice guys often have this resentment about other guys who do well with women, especially. Like, why do the girls always like dickheads, they say. So no, girls don't like dickheads. They like masculinity. A lot of dickheads have strong masculinity. But not all masculine guys are dickheads. Some guys who do well with women, you'd actually love them. You'd be great friends with them if you could take your judgmental filter off and see that they're not jerks. They're just assertive. They don't put up with shit. They create tension just from being honest. One of the most painful truths I ever experienced in my life is the reason that I spent 90% of my time with women in the dreaded friend zone, where I wanted more, but they just wanted to be friends. It's because all I was being was a friend. I was passive, nice, caring, compassionate. I was not assertive. I was not courageous. I was not honest. And I was definitely not sexual. How are they supposed to be attracted to that? Who would be attracted to something that is asexual? There's nothing to be attracted to. There's no polarizing magnets to bring them together. The key to break this, the steps that take you into your masculinity, powerful honesty. So combining with the first step that we talked about, we're now going to talk about shameless honesty. Shameless honesty has been my medicine. It is my cure to nice guy syndrome. Nice guy syndrome and shameless honesty cannot coexist at the same time. Every time you're shamelessly honest, you know for sure you're not being a nice guy. It's the only thing you ever need to know. Because nice guys are deceptive manipulators. We all are. We use the power of dishonesty to trick people into liking us because we want instant validation. We don't want confrontation. And then we lie to ourselves by telling ourselves that we're good people. And because we're telling ourselves that we're good people, I'm a good guy, I'm a nice guy, it's very hard to believe that we're also dishonest. Those beliefs don't work well together. So we lie to ourselves about being dishonest. I say, look, I'm basically an honest person. I don't lie to people. So yeah, but you hide 90% of what you're thinking and feeling. That's a fucking lie. You can only say you don't lie to people where there's nothing in here that doesn't make it out of here. And nobody can get to that level of honesty. So like I said, me at my most honest is still 95% because I simply don't have the time to say everything that's on my mind. When I really assessed who I was as a nice guy, I found that my best guess, I was probably about 10 or 20% honest. 80% of what I was thinking and feeling and believing and doing, I kept hidden from people. I cannot be an honest person and have that at the same time. Shamelessness is about revealing that. And to reveal that, you have to open up your dark side. When you hide emotions, beliefs, thoughts, expectations, preferences, judgments, you are lying. If you don't like something and you pretend to like it, you're lying. If you disagree with something and pretend to agree with it or don't openly disagree with it, you're lying. If you think something nasty about someone and you keep it to yourself because you don't want to hurt their feelings, you're lying. Okay? If you're feeling something and you tell everybody that you're feeling something else, you're lying. If you look at it in that way, you'll see how much dishonesty is living in your life. Dishonesty is the real killer of confidence. Because every time you hide something true about yourself, you're sending yourself a message. What's true about me isn't good enough. It's not good enough to share. It's not good enough to reveal. Therefore, it's not good enough. You think everybody else is making you feel bad about yourself? They aren't doing shit to you compared to what you're doing to yourself. Every time you hide the fact that you're feeling depressed by saying that you're fine, you're telling yourself that the way you feel is not good enough. And if the way you feel is who you are, then you're not good enough. And when you really disagree with everybody at the team meeting, but they're all getting along, so you just go with it, you're telling yourself that your opinions aren't good enough, that your preferences aren't good enough. You know, when you feel that you're attracted to somebody instantly and you act friendly towards them instead, you're telling yourself that being sexual is not good enough, that it's bad to be sexual. Newsflash, you're sexual all the time. So that means you're not good enough all the time. You do this to yourself. You can stop blaming the rest of the world for rejecting you or being mean to you, bullying you. That's 10% of the pain you've experienced about you. The rest is you and what you do to yourself with your dishonesty. In case you're wondering, I feel quite strongly about this. But the point being here, honesty is fucking hard, isn't it? It's simple. Saying what you really think, what you really feel, putting that into words is not some complicated matter. Instead of saying, I feel fine, you say, I feel bad. Instead of saying, I like you, you can say, I don't like you. Being honest is pretty simple, but to get those words out, to go from thought to expression, is really hard. I get it. I had to go through so much pain. I've got a question here. Let me just check in. Not from Gareth. Not sure if you're getting to it, but can you give some examples of times where you've had to tell someone to be straight up with someone? Where you had to tell yourself to be straight up with someone? Yes. I'm going to share a story. It's actually one of my old common stories. Thank you, Gareth, for that question. I'll share it now because I don't know where I'm going with what I'm saying. But this is a turning point story. I've shared it many times before, but it's such a significant one for me because this is where I chose honesty over social approval in a definite decision. I had those two available to me and I chose for the first time, clearly, I chose honesty. And it was when I was at my old work and I'd gone into the lunchroom and I was making myself some lunch. There were a bunch of people there sitting at the table and they were talking shit about someone behind their back. So the person they were talking shit about was not in the room, but it was like gossip. And this person was, it's just one of those things there. You're not the person in the room, you get the shit, right? And they were just going to town, having a good laugh, really nasty, judgmental things. These are generally decent people, but they were just having a little moment of gossipy nastiness. And I was a similar place to you guys. I was like just getting started on this work. I'm like, this is one of those moments. I either go with the group or I make a scene. Those are my two options right now. I can either fit in or stand out because what they're saying disagrees with my values. I do not think it's right that they're doing this. I had to took me about 10 minutes of pretending to make my lunch to build up the courage. I finally turned to them and said, guys, look, if that person was here, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't be saying this stuff. So it's probably not cool to be saying it now. What followed was probably one of the most uncomfortable 15 seconds of my entire life. Just the silence as the whole room just looked at me. And I was just like, oh God, this honesty thing's fucking a myth. Like, what am I doing? But I remember this. My favorite part of the story is one by one, like Christmas lights, they all started going red. Their faces all just lit up. I've never seen anything quite like it, It was like they were having heart problems. And I was watching this and I realized in that moment, before they even started their mumbled apologies and so on, that they were ashamed. I had brought up something that they weren't cool with doing. They weren't uncomfortable because I brought it up. They're uncomfortable because I made them realize who they're being right now, that they're being gossipy, nasty backstabbers, people they don't want to see themselves as. They just somehow got into a trap. Maybe one person at the table was totally cool with it, probably the person who started the conversation. But the rest, me standing up like that, it put them to shame. Now, I have almost no doubt that as I walked out of the room, I became the next subject of conversation, but it felt so fucking good walking out of that room. It was a turning point for me where I was like, I let the whole room feel negatively about me so that I could feel positively about myself. It was one of the most significant times I've ever done that. It was one of the first times I consciously chose to go down that path alone rather than being with the group. And I'm telling you, like I said, it took me 10 minutes to build up the courage of talking myself into it, going, do I really want to be part of this? Do I want to be a gossipy little bitch? Is that who I want to see myself as? Just to fit in with a bunch of fucking people? Really? I had to have that conversation in my head. Is that worth it? I've been doing it for 26 years. It's brought me nothing but misery. Am I going to do it again? I had that conversation with myself. Now, when I relay the story, it sounds like I'm really articulate in the way I confronted them. I have no doubt if I was to watch a video of that now, I'd cringe. I would have been stuttering and stammering and talking into my armpit and embarrassed and red-faced. It wouldn't have come out all beautifully like I did, just now, but it doesn't matter. The point was across. I'm not with you guys on this. And it was the first time I took that step. So Gareth, one of the reasons I'm talking about honesty is hard is because my heart was pounding in my chest when I did that. I was scared about losing my job. My fucking hands were literally sweating. Like I got the big heat rush in my chest. Thought I was going to fucking pass out. Because my brain was just so anti-doing that. It's like, no, you won't fit in if you do this. You'll lose them all. And I looked at them and I was like, okay, I'll lose them all then. So be it. Because I can't keep this lie up anymore. I can't keep living like this anymore. I can't keep being this fake person who fucking hates himself anymore. I'd rather have everyone else hate me. It's easier to deal with, At least that's how I think of it now. At the time, I was probably just shitting myself. So honesty is hard. Saying what you're thinking is the easiest form of honesty. Like, I disagree. Saying how you feel is like the next level. It's even harder. Saying, I feel really resistant to what you're saying. And letting someone see your intentions is the hardest because it's impossible to manipulate. I feel resistant, and the reason I'm saying this is because I want to change your mind. This is the kind of 3 levels of honesty, and what I suggest is you choose which one you can handle and go for that one first and slowly build up. Because each one of them releases a little bit more control. When I tell people what I'm really thinking, what's really going on for me, I make it harder to kind of ingratiate myself with the group. I make it harder to manipulate them into liking me. But I could still back out and change things and moderate myself. If I tell them how I feel, if I tell them the emotions that I have, it's much harder for me to backstep on that. Like I can go up to a girl and say, hey, I like you. She's like, well, I just like you as a friend. I've still got room to back out. I'm like, oh yeah, me too. I just like you as a friend. But if I tell her how I feel, if I'm like, God, I got so excited when I saw you walk in, it's very hard for me now to go, oh, but just as a friend. I'm in now more. There's less manipulation, less control. And if I say, look, I feel really excited about you, and secretly I'm hoping that something magic happens between us tonight, let her see my intentions for being here, I'm really all in now. If she doesn't feel the same way, I can't remedy this situation. I can't pull it back and change it. The deeper you are in, the more self-worth you'll get, but the higher stakes game you're playing, the less manipulation you have. And I know that for a lot of you, that level of kind of honesty is not yet available to you in terms of courage, and that's fine. You build up to it. But what I'll also say is the quicker you get there, the quicker your self-worth gets built. And coming back to say Yuan's example, which is relevant to us all, if the first time I meet a girl, I say, oh my God, as soon as I saw you, I just felt massive attraction. I so hope you like me. I'm setting a scene now. There's no friend zone between me and her now. Not possible. She's either all in or all out. Okay? Gareth says, have you burned many bridges talking like that? Now, this is an interesting one. We won't go into too much detail as to this part because we're going to talk a little bit about it in the next section. But essentially, burning bridges doesn't hurt as much as you think it will. What I've found in my experience is that people hating me usually takes the form of them ignoring me. People don't come and punch me in the face. They just walk away. And that is 95% of my bridges burned, as I simply don't notice that person's in my life anymore. And usually, because of the polarizing way I'm being, the space that they leave is instantly filled with someone who does agree with me. So for example, I might be, I get this in Brojo all the time. I'll run a Brojo session. There'll be a guy rolling his eyes the whole way through, and then he'll leave halfway through. Well, somebody else will take his seat. Somebody else who's like, fuck you, this is a good conversation. So I don't even notice that guy who hates me. I don't even notice that guy who disagrees with me. Now, I really want to point out something that Gareth is bringing up. Yes, you will burn bridges if you're dishonest. But I really want to promise you something. The only bridges you'll burn are the ones you never need to cross. If your company doesn't want to hire you back because you're honest, that's the wrong company for you to work for. If that person doesn't want to go on a date with you again because of what you shared, that's the wrong person to go on a date with. You're not losing anything. The only thing you'll lose with honesty is things that aren't right for you. But a lot of the time you'll think they are things that are right for you, and you'll be scared shitless of losing them. I work on a basic theory. That is, if my honesty scares anything away, then I've done myself a favor. I might not believe it at the time. I might not know exactly why. But if me being me isn't good for somebody, then they're not good for me. And that's been proven to me so many times. Like 90% of the girlfriends, or we'll call them girlfriends, the 3-week flings I had as a nice guy were with people who were a bad fit for me. I had to be dishonest for them to like me. When I was finally honest with them, they disappeared. I am so glad now that those people are not in my life. I look back there, I can clearly see that from my point of view, they are an unhealthy influence. So Gareth, I won't lie to you, honesty and manipulation cannot work together. You cannot use honesty to make people like you. What it will do is it will call the people who do like you into your world. You won't have to try with them. They'll like you just being you. It's a bizarre experience for a nice guy to go through. When you're being you, you're like, fuck, I'm depressed and I fucking hate my job and stuff. And someone's like, yeah, I really like you. You're like, what? How can you? I'm so unimpressive right now. They're like, no, I don't know. I just like you. It's this experience very few nice guys get to have. Some nice guys have like no real friends. And some, like myself, I had a couple of real friends. A couple of people where I could finally take off the mask and just be who I was with them. I didn't have to put any effort into it. And they just liked me, you know? And I just felt it was so weird. I'm like, I'm not even impressive today. Like, I haven't even made you laugh once and you still like me? It's bizarre. It will be something that will just go against everything you believe in, but the people who are right for you, you won't have to try with at all. It's the same with the job that's right for you. It's the same with the city that's right for you to live in. You being you will just mesh, okay? But that being said, like the points I made in the first section, if you're being you in a weak, apologetic, shameful way, it'll mix the message. So me being me without like blasting it out there and making sure it's heard means that someone who's right for me might not hear it properly. They might walk past and not come back. That's why I've really got to go all in with my honesty to find those good fit connections. I have less friends now than I did as a nice guy. But as a nice guy, I had almost no quality connections, whereas now all of my friends are quality connections. I don't have to try with any of them. I don't have to hide my ideas. I don't have to moderate or fit in with them. I just speak whatever horse shit comes out of my mouth, and I can feel safe that they're not going to leave because of that. That they'll usually like me more. Still something I'm wrapping my mind around. The point here is mostly about trying to let go of manipulation. If you can't be honest, then say nothing instead. At least don't actively lie. You know, if someone says, well, how's your day going? And you can't tell them the truth that it's going shit, then at least just say, oh, I don't want to talk about it. Rather than saying, fine. At least don't lie. Because the lie is where you shame yourself. The funny thing is, if you say, I don't want to talk about it, that's the actual most truthful thing you can say. Because that's how you feel. You don't want to talk about it. So actually talking about it would be sort of a lie because you don't feel like talking about it. So you're allowed to do nothing. You're allowed to not participate rather than lie. But just remember, when you lie, to avoid, say, like Gareth says, burning the bridge, you shame yourself. You tell yourself there's something wrong with you. And that does more damage to your self-worth than anything another person can do. And somebody can bully you your whole life, but it's not them bullying you that hurts. It's you agreeing that they should bully you because you're a loser. That's the bit that hurts. And you do that when you don't stand up for yourself, when you lie. Making this practical, I want to talk about the shame grid. I won't go into detail. In Brojo University, we got an intensive exercise that you can do around this. But for now, write a list of everything you hide. This list will be just for you to begin with. All the events from your past that you don't tell people about, all the things you're ashamed of there, all the common thoughts and feelings that you have during the day that you don't let out, and the kind of situations and processes that you tend to hide, like if you're experiencing anger or confusion perhaps, or if you don't like what's happening in a team meeting, the kind of times where the way you express yourself doesn't match what's going on inside you. Make a list of all of those that you can think of. Mostly to do this to see how dishonest you are. How much are you hiding from people? How much do you lie to yourself about hiding from people? I once lied to someone to get laid. That's an example of something from my past that I don't want to tell people about, right? So these are the kind of things that you want to get a big list of. You don't want to, and when I say people, I mean, there might be some people you're okay with telling, but I'm saying everybody. Is there anything you hide from everybody? Is there anything that you wouldn't want to post on Facebook about yourself? Anything that you wouldn't want published in a front page article in the Herald about yourself? Anything that fits that category. But most importantly, we're looking for emotions. Attraction, anger, confusion, fear, anxiety, depression. These are the kind of emotions that most nice guys try to hide. They also can hide pleasurable ones like excitement. So nice guys, it's okay to be happy, but not too happy. You don't want to show that you're too into something. Whatever, these kind of things. Disagreement as a sensation or disgust. The kind of things you usually hide. Make a big list of all the ones you can think of. And then start sharing them. One per day. 24 hours of a day, spend 30 seconds sharing something from that list with somebody. You can start with safe people if you want to. But the point is to start getting these things off your list of shame, off the things that aren't allowed to be shared, into the are allowed to be shared category. Put it this way, if everything gets into the allowed to be shared category, you are now a shameless, confident beast. That is the complete recipe right there. If everything true about you can also be shared with everyone in the world, you've got no shame left. Now, good luck getting there. I don't think it's humanly possible to get to that level of shamelessness, though I'm keen to be proven wrong. I see myself as getting close, like I write almost everything in my books. But there's still some times where I hide something. There's still some times where I just can't find the courage to put it into words. But I'm telling you, the difference in quality of life from doing that most of the time to only doing that a little bit of the time is huge. I feel so much better about myself getting this stuff out now. But like Gash says, yes, in some cases this will burn bridges. But I fucking promise you it will only burn bridges that need to be burned. Now, coming back to that point, honesty has a kind of scorched earth process. If you've been dishonest for a long time, that means you've built a dishonest life around yourself. It means your job's probably bullshit. It means your friend circle's probably bullshit. Your connection with your family's probably largely bullshit. There's a lot of things that need to be burned. Honesty, there'll be this period, I think I'd call it the age of loneliness, where essentially you go through and you destroy a lot of things in your life with honesty because they were built on dishonesty. Now, that might not necessarily happen. I still have friends now who I was friends with in primary school and high school, but a lot of my high school friends didn't survive my honesty purge. They didn't get through me being more honest and stay in my life. It wasn't like we had big blow-ups or big demonstrations of any kind. We just drifted apart as I became less and less like them and more like me. I ended up quitting my career at Department of Corrections to become a coach. That was a shift in honesty. The way I wanted to be, corrections just wouldn't let me be that way. It was too restrictive. So eventually I had to leave. I didn't quit in a big tantrum. I didn't go, fuck this job, and just walk out. I slowly planned my career change into coaching, and I graduated slowly. Every day trying to build it because that was an act of honesty, to slowly build it over time. So you can't keep everything you've currently got and be more honest. You have to choose between them. You can keep everything the way it is now, but you will need to maintain a deception for the rest of your life to keep those things. And you'll probably lose them anyway. As most nice guys know, even being nice in a relationship doesn't make it last, right? It still ends. So, scorched earth. Go through a period of time where one day you let go of a little bit of something to be a little bit more honest and gradually build it up one grain of sand at a time. Now, Yuan's got a great question. What if you can't be honest at the moment? Great. This will be one of your biggest challenges, but there's a solution to it. If you're too scared to be honest, then you can learn how to say that. So this can be a range of things like, I don't feel like talking right now, or there's something I want to tell you, but I'm not brave enough to tell you yet, or look, I just can't be part of this conversation. There's different ways of you expressing, I can't express myself. Like one of the things that, I think I'm going to sneeze. There we go. One of the things that I struggle to express the most is confusion. I find it hard to put confusion as a mental state into words. So I don't really have anything good to say in those moments. So what I'll say, like if I'm in an argument with my girlfriend perhaps and I'm confused, I'll say, I'm blocked right now. I'll tell you more later. I'll literally just say, I'm confused. I can't think of the right thing to say. You can talk about not being able to be honest rather than being honest about the thing. It's actually the most honest you can be in that moment. You know, if you're too scared to talk about something, then that's what you need to talk about. That's the elephant in the room. You never have to participate. Like I said, the worst case scenario is at least stay silent. If all you can express is a lie, just don't do it. Staying silent is at least a little bit more honest than actively lying. You know? You can say, I can't answer that right now if somebody pushes you for an answer. Well, let me think about it some more. But just don't lie out of that reactive rush that we talked about at the start. Okay? Yuan, I hope that answers your question. Tony, do you have examples of self-affirmations or daily mental exercises you run through your mind each day to remind yourself of the importance of demonstrating shameless honesty? Yes, I do. I don't do self-affirmations. I won't go into that, but I believe they're actually harmful for mental health. But what I do is in my journaling, I challenge myself on how honest I've been. Okay. And one of the funniest things I do that I think helps me be honest more than anything else is to take an ice cold shower every morning. Now, this might seem unrelated, but taking an ice cold shower trains you to walk into something you're uncomfortable doing. That's all it is. It is never comfortable for me to walk into a cold shower. Not once have I enjoyed that experience, even though I've done it hundreds of times. So I train myself every morning. The start of the day is started by walking into something I don't want to do. It's a mindset thing. If I can walk into a cold shower, I can say that thing I don't want to say. I can start that uncomfortable confrontation. I can ask that girl out. It's the same push required. Same mental, like, just step into that uncomfortable thing. What I'd say in terms of daily mental exercises is just review your honesty each day and be honest with yourself about it. You might not have the power to be 100% honest any particular day, but you can at least be honest about the fact that you were dishonest. This will stop you lying to yourself and building up that nice guy story in your head and start building up a different story of like, holy fuck, I lie a lot. That story built up over time will give you the frustration needed to be courageous. Once you become sick of being a liar, you'll find it easier to be honest, even in uncomfortable situations. The reason nice guys struggle to be honest now is because they're constantly telling themselves that they are honest. So they're not frustrated enough, they're not taking responsibility for causing their own pain. You need to be able to look at your life and say, look, I'm not getting what I want, but I'm also lying a lot. So until I know that I'm being honest, I can't complain about what I'm getting. I'm getting what I fucking deserve, hiding everything from people, showing them only the tip of the iceberg, not standing up for myself, not expressing attraction. When you start taking responsibility in that way through your journaling, you'll start to get mad at yourself, and that's a helpful thing. Because in that dark masculine space is anger. It's one of the most repressed nice guy emotions is anger because it's one of the most masculine emotions. But it's also the emotion you need for passion. It's the emotion you need for assertiveness. It's the emotion you need for courage. It's the emotion you need for honesty. Sometimes, I often express this to people, they don't realize that when I run these kinds of sessions, a lot of the time I'm angry. Now, I don't put my fist through a wall when I'm angry, when I'm angry. I express myself passionately. I've learned how to use my anger finally. Like I've rebuilt my relationship with my anger after so many years of being disgruntled with each other. So going back to Tony's question, what I'd say is constantly check yourself on your dishonesty. Acknowledge it, notice it happening, and you'll find it harder to repeat. So rather than trying to make yourself be more honest, essentially keep punishing yourself for being dishonest in a way. It will naturally make you more honest. Okay. Wow, we're going over time a little bit here, so I'll quickly go to the next section. Keep going, guys, with your questions or thoughts. Just chuck them in the chat box there. I enjoy hitting the real life examples. So let's go into respect. Being honest is one thing, being respectful is another. Respect is about enhancing your compassion both for others, but for yourself as well, with added self-respect. Nice guys are usually pretty good at respecting others, or at least they think they are. Of course, when you look at how controlling you are of others, it's not a very respectful act. Manipulation isn't exactly a high respect act. But one of the things that is most common in nice guys is they do not set boundaries. They do not clearly express their expectations, their dislikes. They do not set the line of what you're allowed to cross and what you're not. And then they get bitter and resentful for people crossing these lines, even though they never told the people about these lines. Think about how many times you've been pissed off that someone treated you a certain way, but you've never directly told them how you wanted to be treated. You just expected them to know, didn't you? You thought they should know this. So, nice guys avoid taking care of themselves in this way. They see self-sacrificing as noble. We're the white knights, the heroes. I must suffer so that everyone else must gain, and that makes me a good person. The reality of that is I don't respect myself. That's all that means. You deprive your own needs while making others either use you or resent you. You know, I love airports as an example for nice guy syndrome. There's almost no nice guy in the world who wouldn't drop everything to take their friend to the airport if they were secretly attracted to their friend. The airport trip is the nice guy-like analogy. Nice guys will drop everything they got going on to put someone else's needs above their own. That is not self-respect. It's not even respecting the other person. If I go and take that person to the airport and they rely on me to do that every time, they know that they never have to plan it themselves or take care of their own shit, I'm disabling them. I'm making them a weaker person. If I died, they're now fucked because I made them rely on me. And that's a classic nice guy manipulation. Make someone else rely on you. Make them depend on you. Then they need you. Then that means they must love you, right? Wrong. You are a piece of equipment to them. They are now using you. They didn't even want to be a user. So many nice guys complain about being used by people, and yet if you look at the situation, they basically forced the person into using them. They begged for it. Boss, give me the extra work, please. I'm such a good boy. And then later on, it's like, my boss always gives me so much extra work. That's bullshit. He doesn't give anyone else extra work. Yeah, no one else is asking for it. No one else is saying, you know what, I don't want that extra work. Well, you're not saying that, I should say. Nice guys are also much more judgmental than they want to believe. They rely on assumptions so that they can avoid confrontation. She must think that, he must think that, he must be doing this, he probably feels this way. That way I don't actually have to talk about it. You know, she probably knows that I like her, so she'll make the move when she's ready. No, you just don't want to talk about it. Let's be fair. So my boss probably knows that I'm overworked, so he'll reduce my workload when he sees that I'm stressed. No, he doesn't. He doesn't have a clue. You keep asking for more work. He keeps saying yes instead of saying no. But you make these judgments. You judge how people are thinking and feeling so that you don't have to find out for sure. It's a safety mechanism. And I'm telling you, it's killing you. It is killing you. It's putting you in a resentful situation where you go like, but she liked me and she's not acting on it. So no, you don't know how she feels. You got that bit wrong. I've been I've done 3 years psychology degree. I've been working with criminal offenders for about 7 years, and I've been a coach for about 5 years. That's more than a decade's worth of psychological training, and I still can't guess what people are thinking. If I can't, you can't either. Okay? But your brain will think you're right. You'll look at someone and go, they definitely feel this way. 100%, don't even need to question it. You won't realize that you could be wrong. I want to tell you a story about this. I was at a dance class. A friend of mine was running it. And everybody in the dance class was struggling. It was a complicated maneuver. And they were struggling. And he just kept adding more stuff to it, making it more and more complicated. And I was just looking at him like, dude, these people can't keep up. Like, why do you keep making it more complicated? I talked to him afterwards. And I asked him, I was like, dude, you made that way too hard for people. And he's like, no, well, they were also bored though. He thought the look of concentration on their face was boredom. But it was the look of someone going, how the fuck do you do this? That looks the same on a person's face, completely different emotions, and look at how he reacted. He guessed how they felt rather than asking them and tried to meet that guess, which actually made things worse. This couldn't describe nice guy syndrome any better. You guess what people are thinking, you react to the guess, and it makes the whole situation worse. Respect means taking care of yourself, and it means assuming that you don't know fuck all about what's going on inside somebody else. You have to ask them. You have to talk to them about it. You have to have these uncomfortable conversations. Boss, why do you keep giving me more work even though I'm stressed out? You got to say that to them, not guess the answer. Okay? Melissa, this is our 3rd date now. I can't tell if you like me as a friend or more. Can you tell me? Instead of like, I hope she likes me, let's figure it out. Maybe if I touch her hand, that'll give me a clue. No, just talk to her about it. That's respect. You're respecting them. You're saying, I'm not going to judge you. I'm going to find out how you really feel and what you really think. I'm going to respect that I don't know you better than you do. So you can tell me how you feel rather than me telling you, right? And then respecting yourself. If you're on your 3rd date with someone you want to be more than friends with and they're just a friend, you shouldn't be on that 3rd date. You shouldn't be in this person's life. You should be finding someone else to hang out with. You're not respecting yourself. This is a waste of your time now. But because you're unwilling to let that fantasy die, you've disrespected yourself. Respect means taking care of yourself, and here's the hard part for nice guys. Taking care of yourself first, not second. Your job is not to take care of everyone else. It's to take care of yourself. I want to use the airplane analogy yet again, because this is where I had my wake-up call. I'm on an airplane. This is a real-life story. Can't remember exactly when it happened, but they were doing the safety briefing. And they're going, when the oxygen mask drops down in the unlikely event of a crash that you actually fucking survive somehow, you've got to put your mask on before you help the child next to you. And I remember them saying the child next to you. And I was just thinking, like, what asshole would be sorting out his own mask while his poor innocent child is dying next to him? I couldn't get it. I was just like, I don't get why they said it like that. That doesn't make sense to me. My nice guyness was so confronted by that. Like, what bastard would take care? That's what's wrong with the world. People putting on their own masks and all these children dying. And I thought about it. I'm like, well, what happens if I don't put my mask on and I try to help the child? The plane's upside down, cabin's full of smoke, right? I'm suffocating half to death, and I'm trying to stuff a mask onto a kid. I'll kill us both. I get my own mask on, get my breathing sorted. I'm healthy now. I'm in a position to help others from a place of strength. Not only can I help that kid, I can help the 5 other people in my near vicinity without suffering myself at all, because I got my shit sorted first. That flight blew my mind when I realized why they did it that way. I was like, holy shit, you've got to sort out your own shit first. Or otherwise you're a weak person imposing yourself on somebody else who's suffering. How's that supposed to help them? I didn't realize the truth until much later. I'm like, holy shit, that's how I live my life. I'm constantly stressed, constantly exhausted, and trying to help others from that state. No wonder they seem to feel so guilty about my help all the time. They can see the effect it's having on me. I think I'm helping them. All I'm doing is making them feel awful about burdening me. Except I don't even give them the choice because I take the burden. They don't even get to choose whether or not I help them, you know? And some of them, the ones with a bit more of the user tendency, they're provoked. They're like, oh, can you stay back and do this extra work for free? And I say, yes. And they go, oh, guilt-free. It's just saying, nah, I'm fucking stressed. Give it to someone else. Because I don't say that early, and because I don't set the precedent, the next time they ask for work, it's even harder for me to say no. Because last time I said yes. This is actually a process of manipulation. This is how prison guards get turned from decent people into corrupt drug mules. One little bit of favor at a time. First, the prisoner asks if he can have an extra pencil. That's how it begins. 1 year later, the guy's bringing in a kilo of heroin. So, respecting yourself means taking yourself first, and it means, in a very practical way, that everyone's got to wait for you. You got to get your shit sorted. You got to get your mask on. It means if you do your half an hour morning routine, your partner's got to wait till you're finished before you have breakfast with her. It means if your boss wants that extra project done, he's going to have to wait to see if you've got more time at the end of the week. Not you'll drop what you're doing now and do it. And it means if you're wondering how someone feels about you, you ask them. This is what nice guys do not do. They do not set boundaries. They're not clear about what they want. And they're not willing to risk finding out the truth about what other people think. If you're willing to take those risks, your health increases. You put your mask on. You take care of your own shit. And then you're much better placed to help others. Funny thing is now, my coaching and everything, I have far more impact and positive impact on people's lives now than I ever did as a people-pleasing nice guy. And I do coaching for my own benefit. I don't do it really to help other people. I do it because I like coaching. That's my selfish reason for doing it. My intention to coach is so that I get to do what I want. It just happens to be something that has a positive impact on people. Whereas before I did something because it had an impact on people, even though if I didn't want to do it. When I first read No More Mr. Nice Guy, and I went through this phase of not helping people for 3 weeks because I just wanted to see what would happen. I remember specifically this time where a girl came out of the elevator with all these boxes. Oh no, somebody dropped the boxes off. And this is the kind of thing I just classically dive into. I'm like, oh, boxes to lift. Not only is she an attractive girl, but I can lift boxes in front of her and help her. Like, this is win-win-win all across the board. I can be a real hero here. And I thought, no, I'm doing a pact. No helping. Fuck her and her boxes. Good luck to her. And she did. One at a time, she trundled those boxes. She's got arms like a toothpick, and she's these big boxes back and forth. I was just watching this squirming like, oh, I should so rescue her from her poor, the poor maiden carrying the boxes. I need to dive in here. And then I noticed something. As she was carrying her last box, there was a look on her face. Now, to this day, I don't know what that look really was, but it looked to me like pride. I think she was proud of herself for carrying all those boxes. Now, it doesn't really matter if it's true or not, but the real truth is she didn't ask for help. That's for sure. I was right there. She knows I'm a helper. She didn't ask. Now, if she really needed my help, she's a confident girl. I'm sure she would have asked. I have to make the assumption she didn't want my help. Combined with the look of pride on her face, if I'd helped her, I might have actually deprived her of a good feeling. Maybe that was the highlight of her day. Maybe she gets home, she brags to her partner about how she carried all the boxes. I don't know. But I do know a nice guy would have deprived her of any chance of that enjoyment. And you nice guys do that a lot, I promise you. You help people where if you just left them do it themselves, it would take them longer. They wouldn't do it your way, but they'd be proud of themselves for doing it. And they'd learn something that helps them. So, if I had to make this as practical as possible, I'd do a few things. One is morning routine. Half an hour in the morning that's just for you to get you prepared for the day, and everyone else has to wait. Doesn't matter if you're late for work, you still do it. Second thing, confrontations and boundary setting. Make a list of all the people who have crossed your boundaries lately and how you would go about remedying that. Now, you're not going to have the courage to do them all, but you might be able to reset some precedents. Like if you've been taking on extra work, you might be able to go into your boss and say, look, I can't take on extra work anymore. And let them see that you're not the hero that you once were. Open expectations. If you want someone to behave in a certain way, assume they don't know that. Assume that is not a natural assumption for them to make. Covert contracts. Nice guys die on hidden expectations. I did the dishes, so she should say thank you. She didn't say thank you. What a bitch, blah, blah, blah. Did you tell her you wanted her to say thank you? No, then you don't get to expect it. Anything that isn't asked for cannot be expected. Assume nobody thinks like you and you'll be more accurate. And a big one, and one that you can get started with, is asking for feedback. All those people that you think believe you are a lovely guy and so on, ask them for feedback, but don't ask them for feedback on what you're good at. Ask them feedback on what they think you need to change. See what comes up. So, let's recap and wrap this up. Section 1. Slow, loud, and proud. Take up space with both your voice and your body. Slow yourself down. Speak as if you're worthy of speaking. You can practice this in a number of practical ways. Second point, shameless honesty. Get that shame list written up and try to empty it as best as you can. You'll never be able to, but there are some things on there that you don't really need to be hiding. You just hide them out of habit. Like if someone asks you how you're doing in the morning, you say fine. You're probably not scared of telling them if you're a bit grumpy or if you're a bit tired. You could tell them that. You're a bit stressed. You just don't because you're just so used to the habit. That you could start there. I remember one of the first things I started was letting people know when I was tired. It's one of the main things that I hid that I didn't need to hide. Because I was a manager, I didn't want people to know that I was stressed. So I started telling people I was tired and it opened up the doors. And point number 3, take care of yourself first before you take care of others. You're allowed to help people and be a hero as much as you want, as long as your shit's sorted out first. There's time after that. And most importantly, like we said right at the start, listening to this webinar will not do shit for you. You must take action. You must engage in a behavior that's different to what you normally do, and you must consistently repeat that change in behavior. You might be listening to this webinar thinking, oh yeah, good point, I could do more of that, blah, blah, blah. It won't matter shit if you don't act on it. Really, I promise you it will have zero impact on your life if you don't do anything with it. I'd love to have the ego to say, hey, my beautiful words will change your life. They won't, right? Nothing I can say will change your life. But this week, if you slow down your speaking, if you go set that boundary with your boss, if you tell that person you're attracted to them straight away, if you start a morning routine, that's what will change your life. One small thing a day will have a huge impact. Cool. Make sure you put your questions and comments in the group chat there if you have any more for us to finish up on. For those of you who are new to Brojo and want to get into it, I'll do a quick little pitch now for the Brojo online membership. I won't go on about it too much. You either like this and you want more of it or you don't. I'm not going to sell it. But Brojo is a community, both online and in person. And it's mostly recovering nice guys, I think. Though there are a few other people with different things that they're working on. But we focus on building social confidence and self-worth. And we're based on an approach that's around honesty or integrity. So we don't use deception or manipulation techniques to achieve things or succeed. We believe success is when you can express yourself truthfully. When you're okay with you being yourself. That's what we aim to help people do, one bit at a time. So we've created an online version as well. That's $27 a month for 3 webinars like this and a bunch of online courses that help people with different things. And what we do with these webinars, like the one I'm running today, is you can sign up for $1 and trial it out to see if it's right for you. And then if it is, you just keep doing it. So that's what we've got going on there. With the online, you get access to email-based courses, and there's new courses every week. You get my 3X Confidence program. And some of you may also get access to coaching one-to-one, and we've got a Facebook community where everybody works with each other there. So I'll post the link up, which includes the coupon code for the $1 membership if you want to trial that out. If you live in Auckland, we've got the in-person membership. We can talk about that. You can email me anytime, dan@brojo.co.nz. So I won't go on about it more than that, but if you liked what you heard today and you want to work on it more, then, $1 is not much to trial out what a month's worth of Brojo is like. Let's have a look at the questions that came through. Chris, when you started behaving more courageously and other males started noticing your new, bolder personality, were you challenged during the initial phase of your change? How did you handle physical confrontations by jerks or by other stronger, more confident guys at the time? Honestly, this didn't happen. It was really weird, and I actually attribute this to something else, which is doing martial arts. I got in a number of fights when I was younger, and I significantly lost all of them. My God, I got my ass kicked a number of times, and I was quite scared of violence. I mean, part of my fear of confrontations, which was my number one fear growing up, was fear of violent confrontations. I was particularly scared of violence, and I went to a pretty violent school, so it was always around me. And so I got my ass kicked a few times at parties and stuff, and I really didn't want that to happen anymore. So I started doing Muay Thai kickboxing, and then I went and did Wing Chun Kung Fu. And what's ironic is from the day that I started doing martial arts, I've never been in a fight in real life. I've even broken up fights in town. Like I've come home covered in other people's blood, but no one's fought me since then. There's nothing, I don't know for those of you who met me in person, I'm not physically intimidating. I'm just a sort of average size guy. But the first point I made about being bold and open, I think that is there's a lot of evolutionary psychology theory behind this, which is actually this is the body language of the alpha of the pack. I don't believe in all that alpha male bullshit that you see in pickup artistry, but I do believe that if you show you're someone who's sure of themselves, you are far less likely to be challenged because you don't have that I'm a victim look to you. That being said, I guess if I am challenged, I will go directly to it. I had an example lately. Actually, I was at a train station, and this random dude just came in and started bullying this other dude. It was really weird. I was in the UK, and there was this pretty big guy sat down on a chair, kind of fat guy, and this tattooed, like fighting looking guy, looked like an MMA fighter, came in and just abusing the big guy. It's just out of nowhere. It's the most bizarre thing. He's fat, blah blah blah, just giving him heaps of shit about being fat. And it was so bizarre. I just watched for a while without a clue as to what was going on. I'm like, why are these people shouting? What the hell is this? And then I realized what I'm seeing. I'm like, oh my God, I'm seeing like schoolyard bullying between two adults. And the guy on the chair is the kind of guy who needs to be at this webinar, right? Like he's sat there all hunched and defensive and trying to like placate the guy who's bullying him. And I was stuck because I was looking after my bags because my girlfriend was in the toilet, and I didn't want to leave my bags and have them stolen. And I was like, probably just fear of getting involved and stuff. Anyway, eventually I broke through the fear, and the guy had left now. And then he was going to come back and give the guy more abuse, but I started walking towards him. He turned around and walked away. And I actually followed him all the way out, and I caught up to him at the bus. And I'm like quite scared now because I'm thinking we're about to have a fight, but I won't be able to sleep at night if I let him get away with this, And I went up to him and I'm like, hey man, and I shook his hand, which is something I learned at corrections. You always shake the hand of somebody who you think's going to fight you. I shook his hand and said, look man, I got to ask what was going on in there. Because from where I stand, that wasn't cool. That was pretty mean what you were doing there. And I can't remember what he did, but he really backed down. Now, he had no reason to back down. I do not consider myself to be intimidating. But what I do believe, from what I learned working with criminal offenders and asking them about how they choose their targets and stuff like that, was that I showed that I was willing to step up. And that puts 90% of people off. It's a person avoiding a fight who provokes it. Somebody who's looking to have a fight, they're not looking for a challenge. They're not like, who's the guy who's probably going to kick my ass the most? No, they're looking for the guys like, who's the guy who I could just smoke? Who's the guy who's not going to fight back? And it's not about size. It's about timidity. about victim-like body language. When I asked, I worked with a lot of violent criminals who targeted people and mugged them and things like that. I asked them, how do you choose? How do you choose which one? And they said, I can just see it in them. I can see it when they're walking. I pick them out in a crowd. I smell it. They're not looking for a challenge. They've told me that directly. Like the guy who's looking to steal someone's wallet, he's not looking for the guy who'll fight back. He's looking for the guy who won't. So I'm not saying going around being aggressive is the way to go, because that will provoke fights even more than being a victim will. But what I'd say is I just go up and talk to the guy confrontationally. If a guy's eyeballing me or something like that, I'll go up and say, hey man, look, I noticed you keep looking over. What's going on? Are you upset with me or something? And bring it to them. I don't bring it to them aggressively. I just bring it to them like I care about them. This is a compassionate confrontation. Like, this guy seems to have a problem. I want to help him with that problem. Rather than like, okay, just avoid eye contact, pretend I can't see him. Because it's like puts out a pheromone or something. The guy's like, oh, fuck this guy. I know he's not looking at me. He thinks he's better than me. Those kind of guys. But Chris, what I'd also say, I know your story a little bit more, is a lot of what you think is guys noticing you and being challenging is all in your head. Are they actually coming up to you directly and saying, I challenge you? Are they asking you for a fight? Or are they just looking at you because you happen to be the guy who's talking to girls in the room and they want to know how that's done? There are a lot of guys who look like they're challenging you, but they're just watching you. The rest you're doing in your head because you've got those fears. And that's really normal, right? So unless guys are regularly punching you in the face, you have to assume maybe you're wrong that they're confrontational like that. Maybe they're just looking at you. Or if you are being, physically confronted by douchebags a lot of the time, I've got to ask, where are you hanging out? Is this happening in bars and nightclubs? Because maybe that's not the best place to meet people, possibly. Let me just scroll down there. I think I saw something else. Cool. So, Chris, I hope that answers your question. What I will do, if you remind me, Chris, is I've got a video I made specifically about should I be dishonest to protect my safety? I made a video very clearly about that with a lot of the same points. So let me know if you want to see that, and I'll send that through. Question from Gareth. Could you share some info about Brojo in Auckland? Sure. So Brojo in Auckland, we actually meet in person. I say we, I'm in Czech Republic. It's run by two other coaches like me with their own flavor. And they run an inner circle session. So the in-person membership's a bit more. That's $50 a month. But it's in person. You get to hang out with the other Brojo guys in Auckland. Every Saturday, I think they do the inner circle, which is kind of sessions like this, but in person. And then on Monday nights, we have a more social catch-up at a bar, like a meetup. And then the guys also regularly go play basketball together and go fishing together, and sometimes even go away for holidays and stuff together. So it's a real community feel. So it's very similar kind of stuff, but different guys running it. And the guys are interesting. Mike's a lot similar to me. He's like the wallflower nice guy, reformed. So I'm the extrovert nice guy. He's more like the introvert nice guy. And he's done work on that, so he's really strong with that. Mike's also somebody who's been through divorce, and he's a bit older, so he helps guys in that space as well if you've had poor relationships. And Dave isn't a nice guy at all. He's kind of a different breed altogether. He had to work on how to be more compassionate and more honest. And he's very powerful with honesty, David. He was actually one of my role models. I used to work with him in corrections. And when I was a nice guy, I used to look at him and I'm like, man, this dude just says whatever he wants all the time. Even if people hate him, I fucking love it. How does he do it? And we ended up helping each other there. I helped him become a coach, and he helped me understand how to be shamelessly honest. So those guys run the show in Brojo. They also have courses in the Brojo University. When you're part of Brojo Auckland, you get automatic membership for all the online stuff as well. And so there's courses by David there on honesty. Mike's done one on journaling and a few others. So yeah, hopefully that answers the questions about Brojo in Auckland, but it's basically more of the same, just in person and kind of a bit more intense in terms of how often things happen. Cool. Wow, I went quite over time this one, but I could talk about this stuff all day, and I often do, so I get a bit excited. Look, we'll wrap it up there, folks. Thank you so much for joining in live. I know for some of you it would have been a horrific time zone problem, but you came anyway, which I really appreciate. Truly, I do. And thank you for sharing your own thoughts and questions and stories. I like working with real life stuff rather than just what I assume is happening inside my head. I really hope you guys do something with this, take some action, do something a little bold and scary this week. The thrill of it, I'm telling you. One of the things that nice guys have is this kind of gray, mediocre life. There's no real thrilling moments in it because they avoid all the confrontation. You're missing out, I'm telling you. I wish I'd known. It was scary at first, but once I started getting into it, I really started feeling like, my life just had more flavor to it. And yep, more people disliked me and bridges were burned. But where I sit right now, I don't regret a single second of that. There's no one I miss. Everyone in my life now who filled up the space that was created was worth waiting for. Definitely. So I'm here to help either through Brojo University or I can even do one-to-one coaching for those of you who want to take it to the next level. But enjoy the free content regardless. And I will see you guys all next time. Alrighty? Alright, cheers. Oh, by the way, I'll send the recording through after this as well. So if you're on the email list, that'll get sent through. Cool? Awesome. Till next time.